I used to love to cook, but I used to love to eat 300%. I always believe that a good chef should not only love to cook, but he should love to eat also. I'm a chef for the last 40 years and I take a lot of pride in my cuisine, the Indian cuisine. When the Rangmahal group here were opening a new restaurant and they wanted a chef who can do modern Indian cuisine, and I was doing a lot of modern Indian cuisine experiments in India at that time, and that is where we decided to join hands, and I came to Singapore to open the restaurant called Vanch at the Indo Stadium. That is where my journey in Singapore started. It has been a good journey for almost 23 years now. When I came to Singapore, I took upon myself to popularize Indian food, and I felt that Indian cuisine, though it's popular, in Singapore it was considered more of a $5 banana leaf kind of a cuisine and didn't really have a high profile value to it. And as a chef, I always felt insulted that why should a Japanese or a Italian or a French cuisine considered fine dining and why not Indian? And that is how I decided to take upon myself to do whatever I can to take Indian cuisine's image or impression to a higher level. Because I always believe that a chef needs a lot of freedom to express himself if he has to really express his cuisine. And I think that freedom only you can get when you are the boss of the kitchen and you are allowed to do what you want to do. And so I was lucky enough to have been doing the project called Song of India, and we won the Michelin star for that restaurant. After that, I had few restaurants in India. I came back to Singapore. I worked for Rangmahal as a corporate chef. I did few restaurants in Wellington and Auckland. But then it was time to do something different, and COVID happened. And I wanted to do a fine dining, but because COVID was not the right time to do that, I challenged myself to do something very unique, and I opened a restaurant called Masala Bar, which is very casual dining. I call it street food of India in a contemporary style, priced at a very attractive price point, very casual, Bollywood music, but it has caught up with the masses, it's doing well. And then again, I was dying to come back to my original core competence of doing Indian fine dining cuisine, and that's how Bhoomi was born in 2024. Bhoomi, essentially, my tagline is Chef Milind takes you back to the roots. Recently, a lot of young chefs do a lot of fusion. There's nothing wrong in that, but sometimes the fusion takes your cuisine so away that you don't know when you're eating the food, whether it's Indian or Korean or French or Italian. If the fusion experimentation goes for too long, we may lose our knowledge of our authentic cuisine, and someone needs to preserve it. And I feel any cuisine, and especially an Indian cuisine which has got thousands of years of history and background, that cuisine should not get lost because everyone is trying to do fusion. So I thought I should take that responsibility of serving authentic Indian food in its true format and let people explore, let people experience the real Indian food. And that is how I call it back to the roots. So all the recipes are authentic as possible, but they are served in a fine atmosphere, they are served in a modern style, so you can feel that you are in today's age, but still you are eating authentic Indian food. So right from the decor, the name, the menu, everything had to be in sync with each other, and luckily we have managed to do that. We are on 2 levels, the restaurant. We have a private room on the ground floor which takes 8 to 10 people. The restaurant takes around 50 seats on the ground floor. We have a beautiful sitting upstairs, which we are here now. It can take around 30 seats. Yes, the reputation of this building was a big concern when we signed, but I guess the authorities have done a wonderful job and they have really cleansed up the place. Also, I took care that this is something I saying for the first time. I never mentioned in my address the original address of Orchard Towers. I always say it's 1 Claymore Drive. But I guess things are changing now, and people, I have not faced a problem since the day I opened door because of the parts. We are one of the first tenants who have taken up a place and done a fine dining restaurant. I would love to have my restaurant being every part of the world, but to be very honest, I always feel fine dining restaurants to replicate are not all that easy. because every restaurant has its own nuances, the chef's creations and things like that. So it's not easy to replicate or have a chain of fine dining restaurants. That's my personal opinion. Masala Bar is a brand which maybe I can have more brands across the world, but easier, more casual cuisine. Luckily now, the Indian diaspora worldwide is ever increasing. So there's a huge Indian population in practically every country of the world. And if the Indians are going to demand for authentic Indian food, the chefs would have to dish out authentic Indian food. So I don't see there's too much of a problem. Both will coexist, the modern food and maybe the traditional food also. Though India had beautiful volumes and the business quantity in India is always much higher, but I think ease of doing business and acceptance of new cuisine was better in Singapore, so I came back to Singapore. F&B business in Singapore is getting more and more challenging to run because of various reasons which have nothing to do with food or with the customers, but is the operational issues like rentals, manpower and things like that. But another beauty I find about running restaurants in Singapore, which is a big positive, is the acceptance of new cuisines, of new things, of new dishes generally by Singaporeans is very high. People love to try new dishes. They are very receptive to new things. There's a lot of international tourists coming here. So that way I feel it's a very good market for a chef to demonstrate his skills.